The autopsy found no alcohol in his system. No illegal drugs. Only prescribed medications taken as directed. In the weeks before his death, Robin Williams had been publicly described as early Parkinson's, newly sober again and preparing for future work. Privately, doctors were struggling to explain sudden paranoia, severe anxiety, memory lapses, and insomnia that medication did not fix. On August 11, 2014, at his home in Tiburon, California, Robin Williams died by suicide. Months later, a different diagnosis emerged, one that reframed nearly everything that came before it. When exactly did the picture stop making sense? He was born on July 21, 1951 in Chicago, Illinois, the only child of Robert Fitzgerald Williams, a senior executive at Ford Motor Company, and Lori McLaurin Williams, a former model. The family moved frequently, Detroit, then suburban Michigan, then the San Francisco Bay Area, following his father's career. Publicly, this was later framed as a childhood of privilege. Privately, Williams described long periods of isolation, spending hours alone with toy soldiers and accents, a habit he later connected to his improvisational skills. Classmates from Redwood High School in Larkspur, California, recalled him as funny but withdrawn. This pattern, charisma outward, solitude inward, was established early and never fully disappeared. In 1973, Williams enrolled at the Juilliard School in New York City, one of only 2 students accepted into the advanced program that year by John Houseman. Publicly, this marked him as elite, destined. Privately, the pressure was immediate. He left Juilliard after 3 years without graduating to pursue stand-up comedy full-time. The decision worked, but it removed institutional structure. By the mid-1970s, he was performing nightly at clubs like the Comedy Store and the Improv in Los Angeles, an environment later documented as chemically saturated and relentlessly competitive. Fellow comedians, including Richard Pryor and John Belushi, openly used cocaine. Williams later confirmed he did as well, calling it a place where speed and stand-up were interchangeable. In 1978, Williams married Valerie Velarde, a graphic designer. The same year he was cast as the alien Mork on the sitcom Happy Days, leading to the spin-off Mork and Mindy. The show premiered in September 1978 and became an immediate ratings success. Publicly, Williams was now a household name, improvising on camera, doing press appearances and touring stand-up simultaneously. Privately, the workload was extreme. He later said he slept little and used cocaine heavily during this period, a claim corroborated in multiple interviews in the 1980s and 1990s. The marriage deteriorated under constant travel and substance use. Their son, Zachary, was born in 1983. By 1988, Williams and Velarde divorced. The 1980s expanded his film career, Good Morning, Vietnam, 1987, Dead Poets Society, 1989, with critical acclaim and financial success. Publicly, these roles reframed him as a serious actor. Privately, substance abuse continued. In 1989, after the death of John Belushi and the birth of his second son, Williams entered rehabilitation for cocaine and alcohol for the first time. That same year, he married Marcia Garces, a former nanny to his son. The marriage coincided with a period of relative sobriety and professional stability. Films like Awakenings, 1990, and Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993, cemented his bankability. Studios increasingly structured projects around his presence. Success brought contracts. By the early 1990s, Williams was routinely earning between $10 million and $20 million per film, according to contemporaneous studio reports. With that income came long-term obligations, mortgages on multiple properties, staff salaries, and later, substantial divorce settlements. In 1997, he won the Academy Award for Good Will Hunting. Publicly, it appeared to be a career peak. Privately, he later acknowledged that the pace was unsustainable. He continued to tour stand-up between film shoots, often citing contractual commitments rather than creative desire. In 2003, after nearly 2 decades of sobriety, Williams relapsed on alcohol while filming The Big White in Alaska. He entered the Hazelden Treatment Center in Minnesota that August. Publicly, his representatives described it as preventative. Privately, Williams told friends it was a full relapse. He returned to work quickly, resuming films and tours within months. The pattern, crisis, treatment, return, was becoming normalized around him. Financial pressure intensified after his 2010 divorce from Marcia Garces. Court filings were sealed, but Williams stated in a 2013 interview that alimony payments from 2 divorces had cost a fortune, adding, "It's like ripping your heart out through your wallet." This statement was widely reported. Exact figures were not publicly confirmed, but multiple outlets described the settlements as totaling tens of millions of dollars. What is confirmed is that Williams began selling properties, including a Napa Valley estate, in 2012 and 2013. He also returned to more aggressive touring schedules. In 2011 he married graphic designer Susan Schneider. Publicly he described the relationship as stabilizing. Privately, new symptoms began to emerge within 2 years. By late 2013, during the filming of Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, colleagues noted that Williams struggled to remember lines and appeared anxious on set, according to later interviews. He completed the work, but not without accommodations. Around the same time he was filming Boulevard, an independent drama shot in Los Angeles, portraying a man facing late-life disintegration, a coincidence later noted by critics but not commented on by Williams himself. By early 2014, Williams was experiencing severe anxiety, insomnia, paranoia, and episodes of confusion. These symptoms were documented by his wife in later statements and by physicians in medical records summarized after his death. In May 2014 he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a diagnosis publicly disclosed by his family after his death. According to Susan Schneider Williams, the diagnosis did not fully explain his rapidly worsening cognitive and psychiatric symptoms. Medication adjustments followed, some of which, according to the autopsy report, likely exacerbated his condition. In July 2014, Williams checked himself into Hazelden again. His publicist stated it was to fine-tune sobriety. Privately, according to family statements, the admission was driven by escalating anxiety and fear about his mental state. He was discharged after several weeks and returned home to Tiburon. Professional obligations remained on his calendar. He had upcoming promotional commitments and was attached to future projects, though some were reportedly being reconsidered due to his health. No official cancellations were announced. The final 90 days were marked by medical consultations. Williams was seen by neurologists and psychiatrists in the San Francisco Bay Area. According to his wife, he became increasingly paranoid, believing people were watching him and that he was in danger of imminent institutionalization. These claims were later corroborated as symptoms of an undiagnosed neurodegenerative disorder. He experienced tremors, rigid movements, and profound depression. Friends later stated that he expressed fear, not sadness, about what was happening to his mind. On the night of August 10, 2014, Williams was last seen by his wife at approximately 10:30 p.m. The following morning he was found unresponsive in a bedroom of their home. Emergency services were called at 11:55 a.m. He was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. The Marin County Sheriff's Office ruled the death a suicide by hanging. The toxicology report showed therapeutic levels of prescribed medications and no alcohol. Public reaction was immediate and global. Tributes emphasized joy, kindness, and laughter. Within weeks, however, Susan Schneider Williams released a statement clarifying that depression alone did not explain his death. In October 2014, she disclosed that an autopsy had confirmed Lewy body dementia, a progressive neurodegenerative disease characterized by cognitive decline, hallucinations, and severe psychiatric symptoms. The diagnosis was confirmed by neuropathological examination. Parkinson's disease, she stated, was a partial and incomplete diagnosis. In 2016, Schneider Williams published an essay in Neurology detailing the medical journey and the difficulty of diagnosing the disease while Williams was alive. She described a man trapped in the terror of his own brain, a description grounded in clinical findings rather than metaphor. Medical experts later cited Williams's case as illustrative of how Lewy body dementia can be misdiagnosed as Parkinson's, depression, or anxiety in its early stages. The estate was handled according to pre-existing arrangements. His children inherited assets through trusts. His widow and children later reached a settlement regarding personal effects and memorabilia. Rumors of financial ruin were largely debunked. While Williams had significant obligations, he was not bankrupt at the time of his death. What was proven, through medical documentation, was that he was suffering from a terminal, progressive brain disease that had not been correctly identified in time. What remains unresolved is not the cause of death, but the sequence of understanding. When did symptoms become unmistakable, and to whom? How many professional decisions were made under the assumption that he was mentally well enough to continue? And if the correct diagnosis had been reached earlier, would the machinery around him have slowed down, or kept going anyway? By the time Robin Williams died, the essential facts of his condition existed, but they had never been assembled into a single accurate explanation while he was alive. In May 2014, he had received a confirmed diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. That diagnosis accounted for tremors and motor stiffness. It did not account for the rapid cognitive decline, paranoia, severe anxiety, insomnia, hallucinations, and loss of executive function that escalated in the following months. On August 11, 2014, the Marin County Sheriff's Office confirmed Williams's death as suicide by hanging at his home in Tiburon, California. The toxicology report found no alcohol and no illegal substances. Only prescribed medications were present, all within therapeutic ranges. This officially ruled out intoxication, overdose, or substance relapse as contributing factors. In October 2014, the Marin County coroner released the final autopsy findings. Neuropathological examination confirmed diffuse Lewy body dementia. This diagnosis could only be made definitively after death, through direct examination of brain tissue. The finding recontextualized the entire final year of Williams's life. The Parkinson's diagnosis had been incomplete. Depression had been a symptom, not the primary illness. Lewy body dementia is clinically documented to mimic major depressive disorder, anxiety disorders, and Parkinson's disease. Worsen with standard antipsychotic and psychiatric medications. Cause severe fear, paranoia, and perceptual disturbances. Preserve insight in early stages, meaning patients can recognize their own cognitive deterioration. According to statements later released by his widow, Williams was acutely aware that his mind was failing but did not know why. Physicians involved in his care confirmed that he expressed fear about losing cognitive control and being institutionalized. This was not speculative interpretation. It was consistent with documented clinical features of the disease. Professionally, Williams remained classified as functional until the end. He completed scheduled film work. He remained insured. No studio formally removed him from a project for medical reasons. From an industry standpoint, there was no recorded trigger that required production to stop. Completion bonds remained valid. Contracts remained active. The system did not recognize a breaking point because it was not designed to. After his death, studios issued statements of grief. No internal reviews of scheduling pressure, insurance standards, or medical disclosure protocols were announced publicly. Guilds offered condolences but did not initiate policy changes. The industrial mechanisms surrounding Williams continued unchanged. Public narratives initially framed his death as the result of depression. That narrative was later corrected, but only after widespread dissemination. In 2016, his widow published a detailed clinical account in the journal Neurology, confirming the Lewy body dementia diagnosis and outlining the diagnostic confusion that preceded it. Neurologists later cited Williams's case as a textbook example of how the disease can remain undetected in high-functioning individuals. What remains unresolved is not the cause of death, but responsibility for recognition. At what point did medical uncertainty collide with contractual obligation? Who had enough information to slow the process, and didn't? And in a system that rewards constant productivity, what actually happens when a person's brain is failing faster than the machine around them is willing to acknowledge?